Getting our friends together isn't as easy as it used to be. We get it. Life comes at you fast. But trust us, your pals are desperate for a good hang. And when they hear you stock the party with drinks from Drizzly, they'll be banging down your door. Let Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery, take care of the supplies. All you need is an excuse. It doesn't even have to be a good one. It's your dog's birthday. The loquats are finally ripe. Whatever. With Drizzly, you can compare prices on a massive selection of beer, wine, and spirits and get them delivered straight to your door, which means you can entice the crew to leave their houses without ever leaving yours. Whatever the occasion, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. Today. Must be 21 plus. Not available in all locations. Man, I wish they had Drizzly when I used to play D&D and Riffs. Maybe it's time for me to start again. Thanks, Drizzly.
Hey, it's my song. Let's sing it. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be freaking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be freaking awesome. That's it. Say, it's gonna be freaking awesome.
Hey, everybody. It's your friend Jesse Blaze Snyder, the Coolest Geek Alive. And I am coming at you hot with some love for the Super Mario Brothers movie. Oh man, is this thing done lovingly? Talk about, what do you call it? I don't know, a really accurate adaptation of the source material? Unfortunately, I know I'm always raining on the parade because I want these things to be better. It kind of falls short in a lot of ways because of its reliance on this kind of member berries nostalgia thing. And, I honestly, I feel that that's an insult. And, but I mean, it's not that it's like an insult. It's misunderstanding what's really going on with geeks and fandom. I think they're hearing us say, we want this shit to be more authentic to the source material. And they go, oh yeah, you want to remember? You want to remember how it was before and you want it to be the same way again? You want to be reminded? No. It's about sharing. As fans, we love this stuff so much. We want to share it with the next generation. We want to share it with our friends. We want to share it with our family. And we would just love to see a loving adaptation of the thing that we read. And like, I know we can't get you guys to go read all the books that we read, but I could probably get you to watch a movie if they make one that's fucking worth anything, So it's not about this, hey, make it like I remember. It's make it like I remember because I loved it and I want to share it with them, and there, as I've always noted, there are ways to improve things. There are things that are products of their time. If you're adapting comic books from the 90s, a lot of the writing was a little weak, but you can what do you call it? I don't know. Level it up a little bit with the right writer looking at it with a modern day sensibility, and certainly the main tenets of the stories are there, and that's what you focus on. You go, okay, well, these are the main points of the story, and how do I make this great? One of my favorite comic book writers, Joe Kelly, famously did this wonderfully with Deadpool, who was a creation of Rob Liefeld, and he just picked the name off of a Clint Eastwood movie, Deadpool, and Joe Kelly, he made the name make sense. He had this whole story, which you see in the Deadpool movie, which came from Joe Kelly's mind, of the Deadpool being this bet that they had for these people who were being tortured in this program that Wade Wilson was in, and he won the Deadpool for getting them to kill him first by pissing them off. That was the whole premise of the thing. He won the Deadpool because he wanted to die, because he was being tortured. It was a really interesting and deep origin for that name, and it changed everything that we knew about Deadpool. Every time you heard his name from now on, now you thought that. You always got to work with what you got that everybody loves. You can't just fly off the handle and do whatever you want. And that's why I love this Mario movie, because it is just, holy crap. It's so true to the source material in so many different ways. I've been playing Super Mario Odyssey the past couple weeks, and it is Oh, what a great game. I always wanted to play it. I don't know. I started playing at a level where I couldn't figure out how to get out of the area I was in. It was many years ago when the game had first come out, and I got stuck, and I was like, screw this game. I don't want to play it anymore. And then recently something brought it to my attention again, and I've been playing, and oh my God, it's great. Being able to play as old school Mario in the game. If you haven't played it, it's worth checking out. They'll have like these little digital warp pipes, and when you go into the digital warp pipes, you'll come out the other side as Mario from Mario number 1, from Super Mario Brothers number 1, and you do like a part of the level like the old school Nintendo games, and it's super, super fun. There's so many references to old characters from older games, and I mean, it's amazing. I'm a huge Super Mario Brothers fan. I don't know if I talked about that in episode number 1. I know I talked about a lot of fandoms that I have. I'm a big Nintendo guy. I never really liked the hyper-realistic video games and the violence and gore in those games. That didn't appeal to me as much as more like cartoon violence. So I always stuck with Nintendo because they had more cartoony kind of characters, like, case in point, Super Mario Brothers. And Zelda. They had Zelda. And I'm a huge, huge, huge Zelda fan. I literally have the Triforce tattooed on one of my shins. I love Zelda. And because of the success of this Super Mario Brothers, it's going to lead into a Zelda film. It's going to lead into a Nintendo universe, but they keep talking about Zelda. And all of a sudden, I've gotten really, really nervous because I'm like, uh-oh, these studios always seem to learn the wrong lessons from every disaster that happens. Something goes wrong, and you're like, wow, I hope that maybe they'll learn something from this. And they never learn the right thing. And in fact, learning nothing would have been better than learning the wrong thing and then leaning in the wrong direction. So I'm here to try to point the needle where it needs to be. Okay. And, and the first thing I'm just going to say, because this is really important. If you're making a universe, don't make the mistake that Marvel's been making right now, and you make them all generic Marvel movie. There's plenty of things, like if you do a Donkey Kong movie, that can vibe like Super Mario. We just had the similar thing. However, if you're doing a Zelda movie or a Metroid movie or a F-Zero movie with Captain Falcon, these could all be really great and viable and cool, and there's a lot of wiggle room to make something great. But with Mario, the big problem is it's just not that funny, and the story that they put together just isn't that compelling. It doesn't give us enough sort of time with any of the characters, even though the voice cast is great. The voice cast makes up for the fact that we don't get a lot of time with the characters. Keegan-Michael Peele in particular is really great. I'm pretty sure that's who it is who's playing Toad. He's great. Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I love that show, although I feel like it's kind of fallen apart in recent seasons. I don't know if the new season will be any better. Fingers crossed, everybody. But I really enjoyed Charlie Day, and I thought he was really great as Luigi. And Luigi actually had a decent amount of character in this movie because he's playing the fearful angle from the Haunted Mansion thing, which I thought was very cool. And Jack Black, of course, was everybody's favorite, singing his song and playing the part of Bowser nice and over the top. This is great. This is wonderful. But if we make a Zelda movie, it can't be like that. It can't have this tone. A Zelda movie, an F-Zero movie, a Metroid movie, they have to vibe cool. They have to be realistic-ish. That's not to say that there can't be humor. Characters can have a sense of humor. Situations can work out in ways that are delightful to an audience. But the tone of these future films that you might make in a Nintendo universe, if you really want to make it great, you can't just keep on keeping on with this super referential thing. It's great, but some of it is missing the point with what it is that the fans are really looking for. And again, I said we're looking to share the thing that we love. And I mean, granted, this covers that so much. And the bigger thing actually that this does that fans want is we want to see the thing that we've already seen either in our minds or on the comic book page or whatever it might be, brought to life as authentically as humanly possible. Authentically. When it starts to look like the thing we love, I know people who are comic book fans, when Spider-Man's costume, finally they had one that looked pretty darn close to the comic books. The early ones with Mark McGuire, baseball player, with Tobey Maguire. I remember thinking, I really I had the action figures, and I just hated the stupid raised thing or whatever. And I don't know if it was an Amazing Spider-Man or if it was finally in Homecoming or whatever. At a certain point, there was a really great looking Spider-Man costume, and I was like, yes, thank you so much. And that's the thing of bringing it to life authentically for the fans visually to bring it together authentically. That's what you do for us as fans. When it looks visually like we remember, we are being fed the medicine that we need. If you can also then tell a story that's coherent and wonderful and additive to the thing that's there, we'll be your best friend forever. I don't think that this movie exactly does that. It's just not quite funny enough for me, and it's not quite, meaningful enough for me. I wasn't really invested in the characters beyond being invested in seeing the world I like from the Mario Brother games brought to life. I think we're going to need a bit more depth for something like Zelda or F-Zero or any of these games. And there'll be plenty of room for humor, and you can bring in humor, as I said, but you got to do it the right way. So first of all, that's the first thing. We're not just looking for member berries. And this movie has so many references, and I mean, it's cool. A lot of them are really cool. I mean, one of them is built right into the story. I mean, Mario's origin is Mario's origin. He used to work at a different company, the Wrecking Crew, from the Wrecking Crew video game, with a dude, and he broke away and went into business for himself with his brother. That's straight out of the continuity of Mario appeared in this old school arcade game, the Wrecking Crew, and then later he appeared by himself, and that's explaining the universe. This is wonderful type of adaptation stuff. I love that. But then you get into things that are just crazy in passing, and there's tons of them, and some of them are really wonderful. And I'm not saying that this isn't an enjoyable part of the experience sometimes, especially in a comical film like this. But again, we wouldn't want to do this in a Zelda movie, but it's fine for here. But references to Duck Hunt, Punch Out, Balloon Fight, Kid Icarus, Star Fox, F-Zero, Game & Watch, Mario Kart, the Donkey Kong games, and Luigi's Mansion. I wanted to rewatch the whole movie. I ended up doing a little synopsis kind of thing and trying to look online to remind myself of some of the stuff. And I missed a whole bunch of these references. There was a bunch of them that I saw, and I was like, oh, yeah. And then there was so much going on in every scene that you missed a lot of things. Anyway, they got Jumpman being referenced, which was Mario's original name. And what else do I have here? Wrecking Crew we talked about. Specific power-ups. There's all of these power-ups from the game. And power-ups, if you play the Nintendo game, Mario, you get a star, you get a mushroom, different color mushrooms. There's one that's, gives you extra life, and there's another one that makes you a big guy, and then there's the flowers that are fire, and there's ice ones in other games. And then there's ones in later games that you get cat costumes and all sorts of stuff, and they are using all of these freaking power-up in this movie. And actually, that's another thing that I would say, to a certain degree, there was a couple things that I felt like by rushing them, you rob yourself of the ability to, what do you call it? roll out the story long term and continue to satisfy an itch that's already there. In particular, there's a choice to not have the princess be, depicted, I guess, as a damsel in distress in any way, shape, or form. But I don't really think that that's fair, because, sometimes you just get overpowered. I really kind of think it's sexist, actually, automatically sort of going, oh, well, she doesn't have any agency. Well, she has agency. She's a strong character. She's been depicted as a strong character for ages, and she could and would be depicted as a strong character in future films when Luigi then later gets kidnapped, which makes a little bit more sense with his story, and the story could have been tied into that, because right now you get a story that's like about Mario meeting the princess, and at the same time Charlie, and I mean, sorry, Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Luigi's character being kidnapped by Bowser, and he does kind of like the Luigi's Mansion thing, but the Luigi's Mansion thing could have been explored more fully if that was the focus, and the Princess and Mario thing could have been explored more fully if that was the focus. Then you could have had Luigi and Mario walking around like going like, "Why are we doing this?" And like I love her, man, I love her, and it could have been a story about brothers, and like that would have endeared us to the brothers. You don't really get like a lot of like heartfelt, "Ooh, I love these guys together and they care about each other," and that's kind of the thing that I think would be the most important thing to establish in a film about the Super Mario Brothers, right? So, like, this is the thing. When you're working on this material, you have to look at everything for what it actually is. What is this? It's the Super Mario Brothers movie. So we need to, if we think about it too, also going back to the games, that's what the games are called. It's about brothers. It's being played all across the country by brothers and sisters and siblings. And that's why Princess is in the game and Toad's in the game, because everybody loves these characters. But where it started was those brothers. And if they had done a really good story about sort of this girl and having to take care of this girl, save this girl, whatever, risking their lives, kind of thing. And like they could have done something really meaningful where you came to really care about these guys because they're brothers and that means something to them and they treat each other like brothers the right way. I think that would be a better place to go than sort of jumping straight into Bowser has arbitrarily kidnapped a random dude who has showed up in the kingdom. Doesn't really necessarily make any sense for the story, and it rushes headlong into the future games where Luigi does get taken. And that was a great choice that eventually was made by Nintendo to have Luigi be the one who had to be saved by Mario. I don't remember which game it was where they did that, but I've played at least 75% of the games. I know there's a ton of Game Boy versions that I probably haven't played, but I love the Super Mario Brothers franchise. And so for me, that's a better step one, right? Let's establish them as brothers. Let's make us care about them as brothers. And then later we got these other stories. Like it's not an indictment to Peach. Peach could be getting, be the damsel in distress or whatever, but she could be fighting her way and resisting. And there's all sorts of ways that we can demonstrate what a cool and powerful woman Peach really is. She's just overwhelmed. This is a tough situation. She needs some help, and here comes the Super Mario Brothers. It's these two guys. She's got a kingdom full of these toads and they can't really do it. But these two dudes, they can take the mushrooms and they can do all the stuff that she was doing to help them. And they can come save her because, Mario's in love. And I just really like that. And then this something about, I didn't tell you I had a sister. And then, Daisy shows up at the end. If it was more focused on the brothers, and then you give, Luigi's got a love interest. And then people really care. You keep building those things is basically what I'm saying. And honestly, there's a similar idea about, by the end of this movie, he's flying around in the raccoon suit. I forget what it's called. It's got some weird Japanese name, like the Toka suit. Looks like a little raccoon suit. And he's wearing the cat suit when he defeats Donkey Kong. That's one of my favorite games, too. Donkey Kong Jr. in particular. I love that arcade game. You ever play that one? Homework assignment, play the Donkey Kong Jr. arcade game. Find that. It's really fun. I love that one. And what the hell was I talking about? Stupid Donkey Kong arcade game. You've derailed my point completely. I'm going to have to stop this and go back and look. So imagine the alternative. Imagine that we focused on the power-ups that were available to you in the original game, which, if you remember, was the star, which is in the movie, the fire flower, and the mushroom. Let's teach people about the mushroom a little bit. Let's give that some whatever. Let's turn that fire flower into the lightsaber. Let's make it matter. It kind of all goes by so quickly. There's so many things on display, and I don't really think it's necessary. I think they could have been a bit funnier and more focused on telling good jokes and making them land. You know, having the universe be really similar and right to the thing is great, but you don't even have to freaking tell us too much about that. You have to enrich that experience to make it real for us. So focus on explaining what these power-ups are, or explaining what this pathway to the human world is in the sewers in Brooklyn. You know, they don't really give life to any of that stuff in any meaningful way, other than everything that you've already seen in the game, which is generally kind of alive already, is given a little bit of personality. But they don't spend enough time really extrapolating further, and I think they jump the gun and go too far ahead too quickly, and they're leaving themselves they're going to run out of steam, I think, a bit, unless they can step up and start writing better material. But come on, be honest with me. Hearing that pitch, hey, imagine if we just focused on that first game. Do you know how many people have played that first game and variations of that first game at this point? Imagine we made the brothers, the fact that they're brothers. Imagine that we made that matter. Imagine that we kept it to, you know, the princess in her normal role, but we set her up for the future. Imagine that we built up the mushrooms and built up the fire flower in particular, and told a little bit about that and made it important, like a lightsaber, as to, you know, something of, oh no, Bowser, now he's got the fire, like that kind of vibe. Do we not think that would build the story better? I really think so. I really think so. So I'm going to go through my little notes here because I got some other stuff that I wrote down and see what else I have missed. Now, despite all of these many flaws in what has been done here, even though so much of it has been done right, it is succeeding like gangbusters at the box office. And let me just, to back up my story here so far, and it's still making money. I think it's got one more territory to open up in, which is like Poland. And I don't know how big of a territory that is for us, but domestically, it's made over $536 million. And so it'll make it at least, I think, another $20 million on top of that, at least. I think it made $12 million this weekend. Internationally, it's made $674 million over. And worldwide, $1,210 million. And already, it's not even done moving, and it's number 15 all time for highest grossing movies. Granted, this is without inflation and whatnot, and the inflation prices have been going up. So, I mean, it would be lower on the list, but it's still going to be cranking up. You know, it'll pass The Lion King and Incredible 2, you know, and granted, without the inflation thing or whatever, but well over $1 billion. So, I mean, what else? I got a couple charts out here for us to look at. 2023 worldwide box office. So for this year, in comparison to other movies, granted, Guardians of the Galaxy, it's only just come out. But Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, it's still making a little bit of money, but it's kind of ending. It's worldwide at around $475 million. Worldwide, $475 million. That's pretty. That's 3 times more than that. And Guardians of the Galaxy, even though it rebounded this weekend, and I think it did pretty well. I mean, now it's sitting at 536 million, and it's got weeks to go. But I still have a feeling that it's going to kind of taper out. I mean, my guess has been somewhere between 600 and 700 million. But I really believe that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 should have and deserved to be $1 billion tentpole film. But because of the momentum of him leaving for DC and the audience knowing that, him as a filmmaker having the energy of making this film, knowing that he was leaving, I think that's half the reason that James Gunn left everybody alive in his script, is because he didn't want to hurt the livelihood of his actors, his friends. He wanted them to be able to keep their jobs, which is actually very sweet. I didn't spoil anything for you guys in the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm the worst. What are you doing listening to things like this if you don't... if you don't want them to be spoiled a little bit. Anyway, 1,210,000,000. I think it'll probably end around 1,300,000,000 at least. That is really head and shoulders above everything that is coming this year, and I think could well end up being head and shoulders above even Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but we'll see where that one ends up. Maybe it'll taper around more around like the low 700s or low 800s or something, but it should be bigger. I don't know. We'll see. I hope more people see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 because I think it's a really good movie. Anyway, that's the box office on this thing. Oh, also, I mean, again, it's the inflation thing, so it's a little bit tricky here, but it's number 3 of all time in the PG and like Incredibles 2 and The Lion King are the only thing ahead of it, and it's definitely going to overtake The Lion King without inflation, which is 543 million, and 608 million's Incredibles 2. Incredibles 2 is a sequel, and and had lots of time for build. I mean, granted, this one had a lot of time for anticipation building up as well. I think this is a pretty impressive debut, and the studio should learn one important thing. If it looks true to the thing that they love when they see the trailer, the audience will show up to see the film. When people saw the trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog, it didn't look like what they were familiar with. It was a real letdown, and the fans rejected the choices that they made, and they decided to go with what the fans wanted, rewrote Sonic, and it's been a huge hit for them because it looked familiar to the audience. The audience was like, yeah. And a lot of the choices that Sonic is making are not really authentic to the game at all, but they did do an authentic visual, and that is half the battle with the audience, because the biggest thing we want as fans is just to see it brought to life. So seeing it, if we just turn our mind off, we're still getting what we want if it looks like the thing we love. But when it's written like the thing we love, lovingly, and looks like the thing we love, that's the magic sauce. But the visual is enough, because seriously, we are willing to turn our ears off if you can paint a beautiful picture for us that will remind us of the things that we do love, even if you get it wrong. That's the thing. When people saw the first trailer for Mario, everybody was saying the same thing. Oh my God, it looks just like the games. This is so great. This is so cool. And they were bitching about the Chris Pratt voice thing, which they had a very clever in-story reason to sum that up. There's a lot of great writing going on, like in-universe writing to tie certain things together, but there's so much more that they could have done. The storyline goes that the commercials for the Mario Brothers plumbing service, they do this ridiculous accent, but they don't normally talk like that in real life. But there's a commercial that they do. And this was a clever way of getting around it and making the main character speaking a little bit more of a normal voice. It'd be a little weird having him the whole movie be like, yeah, it's me Mario, yeah. I mean, that would probably be pretty annoying after a while. It was annoying just for a few seconds right there. So, I don't know who's really clamoring for that to be true. Although now that I think about it, you could have done like a really authentic Italian accent, like Roberto Benigni, the guy who won the Oscar, and he made like the real big fuss of the Oscar one. Oh, thank you, it's me, Mario. Yes, like actually, thinking about it now, I always prefer more authentic. And isn't that interesting? The more you think about it, you're like, oh wow, yeah, if it was an authentic guy, it's really doing well. And the Nintendo universe is definitely not going anywhere. So tell Nintendo, make sure they know, don't make it goofy like this. Keep it grounded and rooted to the earth. Make it something that's cool and beautiful and interesting, as is the Zelda franchise. Zelda is the one game that I still, to this day, I will take time. Well, Mario too sometimes, but I will take a lot of my time to put into a Zelda game. Like Breath of the Wild is probably my favorite game of all time, but really my true favorite game of all time is the original Zelda. And that's actually the homework for tonight. If you want to do it really authentically, order yourself an original Nintendo unit or a replica of a Nintendo unit, and order yourself an original golden cartridge for the Zelda game. It was in gold plastic, the original Zelda. And this is my favorite game of all time. It still holds up. It's just great, simple, interesting, cool game. I highly recommend it. Do the authentic thing if you're into that kind of thing. But otherwise, it's totally available to download in the Nintendo eShop. That's your homework. I recommend it. It's one of my dad's favorite games, too, of all time. Classically, I tripped over a wire and he lost his save data, which used to be a thing back in the day. Like, it was very easy to lose all your save data just by knocking out the plug on your unit or something. And as a child, I kind of ruined his life. He gave up games from that moment forward. Sorry, Dad. Anyway, he's a listener. Anyway, I think I've probably talked about this all enough and made my point. Hopefully, we get a great grounded Zelda movie, and that we can get a little bit more story from that Super Mario Brothers 2 that we're going to get. I love Nintendo. I love all the franchises. I love Super Smash Brothers, all this stuff. So I would enjoy seeing these things brought to life on the big screen the right way. I hope they tap the right writers to create screenplays that are loving to the source material for these games, and that they're successful with doing this, because there's a lot of people who would love to see this done right, and I am one of them. I love you guys. I'm going to wrap up the show. We did okay with trying to bring it in a little less than previous episodes. I've got a Kickstarter that I'm getting set up for, well, to be honest, if you've signed up for the King of Kings #1 notifications on Kickstarter, it's going to be a minute for that one, because I think I'm pushing a special new project to the front of the queue and releasing that Kickstarter first. I've got a lot of reasons for why I'm doing this, and I'm thinking that I'm probably going to talk about it at length in a future episode of the show. I wasn't actually planning on doing this episode today. We were supposed to have Grayson's interview, my son Grayson, who is, sorry, I had to belch, 8 years old. And he did an interview with me about his Disney Plus experience, just like Parker, and it was another adorable and cool and insightful interview. But my engineer, songwriting collaborator, one of my best friends, Andre Padre Holmes, got really sick, and he wasn't able to finish producing the episode for me, and he couldn't get it to me in time. So really quickly, I was like, oh, cool. Well, I've been wanting to talk about Super Mario Brothers. So I got on the microphone, and I'm doing this because we got to save Zelda. Don't make a goofy Zelda movie, please, 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 please. That's the whole reason why that I've really come, is because if they make a goofy Zelda movie, I'm going to be really upset, because they made a goofy Iron Fist on frickin' Netflix, and I have an Iron Fist tattoo on my chest, and I'm tired of them making me look bad with my tattoos, man. Okay. That's all I have to say about that. Go to King of Kings #1, get notified for that Kickstarter, but I'm going to be announcing and talking about a new Kickstarter that I'm working on, that I'm pushing to the front, that I think you're all going to be really interested to hear about, just maybe in a few weeks. Hopefully next week we'll have Grayson's episode, and that's all. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me again on another fabulous episode of The Coolest Geek Alive!
Coolest alive. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Stay with awesome. Revenge of the Geeks. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Week after weeks. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Laughing with you. It's gonna be freaking awesome. And crying sometimes too. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Spilling it out. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Making you shout.
You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snyder.
I'm a genius.
Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.
You like that? It's a kazoo solo. Play that too. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Living legit. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Call right on text. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be freaking awesome. It's starting soon. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Passing the moon. It's gonna be freaking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Ready, set, go. It's going to be freaking awesome. Freaking awesome. It's going to be freaking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.